Hello there, my name's Steve, and you are listening and also watching the Go Football podcast. So, this is the podcast that talks all about grassroots football. Whether you are a coach, player, parent, referee, just got a love for the game, sit tight, you're in the right place. So, on the lineup this week, we're going to be doing an episode which is probably one of the more negative ones we've ever done. And I'm sure that a lot of people have been affected with it. But we are going to be dealing with the rejections in grassroots football. So we're going to be unpacking quite a few things that happened there. So, cue the whistle and let's get into it. So everyone, we are now in July, pre-season has fully kicked in, and as you all know, one of the things that you're definitely going to have to get sorted in pre-season is your kit as well. So massive thank you to Rush Sportswear for sending me all of these kits as well. I really love them. They're all custom made. Guys, if you haven't already got your kits ready or you're looking for a new supplier for your kit, head over to Rush Sportswear. They're great. You can get them on Facebook, you can get them on TikTok, Instagram. They've got loads of different kits that are all in stock, can be delivered just ahead of your pre-seasons and also ahead, most importantly, of when your league starts and your game starts. So get some custom-made tops similar to this one. Head on over there now and let's get into the show. So then this episode is going to be one of the more, I suppose, more negative kind of podcasts that we've done. You know, Go Football podcast is very positive a lot of the time. We always look for the best in different things, especially when not everyone's thinking that they've got a positive outcome for some of the things we've talked about. We talked about the 3v3 and, you know, quite a few people did come back to me saying it's not really for them. They're not really too interested in those things. You know, I've had some other people that have come back with some of the others, you know. But this one is one where I think it's a little bit of a sensitive subject, but I think we can get through this. I think we can talk about all of this. We're going to be talking about rejection in grassroots football and how to deal with it, what happens, and, you know, is there a comeback from rejection in grassroots football? I think that with rejection, it's part and parcel of the whole game. You know, even if you were to look way past this as well, way into the sort of like the professional game, you will definitely see that there's rejection along the way. Now, that doesn't mean that it's kind of right or it's nice or any of those kind of things. In fact, rejection is always pretty much bad, but is it always the worst thing for you? Not always. I think that a lot of people have been able to bounce back, and you know, there's a lot of things for us to kind of unpack in this one. By the way, look, we're up to episode 25 now, and that's great. So for all you guys that are listening, 25 episodes in, and I've not been rejected yet, but I'm sure it's going to happen at some point. So big thank you for coming back and just listening. You know, the views and everything are going up like weekly that I'm seeing on my stats from Spotify and Amazon Music and all the rest of them, and YouTube too. Although YouTube a little bit slower. But yeah, thank you very much for, you know, tuning in, having me on your podcasts and having me on your devices. But yeah, rejection in football is massive, really. It happens pretty much at every time. And, you know, there's no time that it's going to happen more, really, than in the next month or so. And it's going to happen in the next month because people are going to be having trials. There's going to be certain teams that don't quite have enough players where some players are going to have to go to them. If they've got two teams that are making one team, is there a surplus of players? Can they accommodate and can they have everyone there and be able to look after everyone equally and fairly? And sometimes they're not able to do that, and that's why sometimes coaches and clubs will need to go in and they will need to say to players, like, we're really sorry, but we can't either have more players on there or things like that. So, you know, just looking at those. But I mean, if you were to look at it, rejection really in football, like I said, it's everywhere. You know, very, very top levels. I mean, what's happened to Rashford at the minute? I mean, is he going to stay at Man United? Who knows? Been a little bit rejected out of there, hasn't he, too? So, you know, you'll see players from all different levels. But if we're just looking at kind of the grassroots, the kind of early ages of how things are there too. You know, you might be getting rejected from a JPL team. And by the way, we did JPL versus grassroots last week. Go back and take a listen to that one too. Academy level, you know, there's always going to be rejection out of those. In fact, probably a bigger rejection out of those than anywhere else, really, I would say. I think that there's a big portion of players that go in and it's great that they'll go, get signed or go and get their chance to go and play at an academy for a set amount of weeks. But unfortunately, not everyone can go and play there, and they can't take every single player on all of the time. But you've got to probably think that where a few other players and where people could also be rejected. It could be out of teams because of numbers. It could be because of development. It could be a number of different things, really. If you were to break it down, rejection, being dropped from the squad, that's one of them as well. And that's probably the most hardest one, I would say, for Grassroots. Because if you've been with a team and everything's been really good and no expectations that you're going to be leaving as well, but then you're rejected from a club, that one can look really, really bad. And that can be really bad. Being released from a club or academy, again, not getting picked at trials, that's going to happen a lot for a lot of young players now. A lot of young players will be going to different teams and trialing. I've seen all over socials, I've seen a lot of coaches and also young players that are heading towards trials at the moment, and they're in that phase. And you also know that if they are having trials, probably because they've got too many players for the squad. And bear in mind that, we can't take everyone on at every single club, but there should always be an opportunity for someone at every level to go and play. And I'm all for that. I think that with Grassroots, it should be for everyone. And I think that there should be an inlet for someone there too. But we also have to realise that some clubs and a lot of teams, they can only take so many players. For example, most of the time, when you go, you can only maybe have 5 subs at 9v9 and maybe even, only 5 subs at 11v11. So if you can only have that and you've got 20 in your squad, well, effectively, you're leaving 4 people behind every week. And for some teams, that might be fine. You might be able to rotate your squad around so that you've got a team that turn up that are going to play. Substitutes, maybe you've got some extra players that are there as surplus players, or maybe there's a full-on rotation of players like, these are your rest weeks. Definitely know with the teams that I was involved with last year, we were playing 7-a-side, and we also used to have 2 players that used to be on rest week. And that used to suit all of the parents. They used to like it because we used to play Saturdays and Sundays. So the parents would get the Saturday off and they'd be able to go and watch their kids play on the Sunday. So it wasn't as much of a, I wouldn't say it's a burden as well, because your children too. But, there was less commitment there as well. And that kind of worked. But being dropped from those kind of teams as well and being told that just not right for us as well, it's not going to happen as well, is not great. And we're going to unpack a little bit of that about how to maybe deal with it, maybe how coaches can deal with players and how maybe players should react when they get that kind of information too. I think the other thing is from rejection is sometimes players are just overlooked or feel that they are just overlooked. And sometimes that's not always the fault of the coach. And that's because in Grassroots especially, there's a whole horde of volunteers that are turning up on a weekly basis, that are doing their day jobs, that have got another full-time job called coaching the football team and the local football team, which they thought when they maybe took it out, it was going to take 2 or 3 hours a week. And all of a sudden it's 20 hours a week that they're spending. Sometimes they can just overlook some players as well. But, I suppose that with rejection, what kind of comes out of that? Well, sometimes some opportunities can come out of it, and that's great if there are some opportunities that can be had there too. I think that no one really talks about what the impact is for very young children that are being rejected, and what that can kind of do to their mental state. And look, I'm not a psychologist, so I'm not going to go into the whole mental state of it, but I do feel that there's not enough talking and there's not enough information, maybe not enough resources, maybe for parents, but also for players. And they don't talk about it. They'll just get rejected, and there's a few things that actually happen. Now, I did put some things out. So if you ever see me on any of the socials posting stuff, and it'll go out as Go Football Coaching. If you ever see me on any of the socials putting something out, please interact, please email, please comment on those socials, please do something along those lines. I do post to a lot of groups, especially before I come on and do the podcast, because I just want to have a little bit of information. And someone did email in and say this as well, and this one was someone called Jaden, who I think was our parents that actually emailed in, because they said that they were 14, and I'm guessing that a 14-year-old hasn't really emailed me in, but yeah, they've put they've said a basically message in. Let me just read this out for you then too as well. Jaden, 14, didn't make the academy squad this year, so it made him feel like he had to question whether he was good enough to play. But guess what? Jaden's coach said that he's come back flying, now captains the Grassroots team and is enjoying football again. I think with rejection, the key thing that we don't want to do as coaches, as parents, and as players, really, we don't want to do is we don't want to lose the love for the game. And as long as we can make sure they've still got a love for the game, there's still a chance that there is maybe that we're not going to feel the rejection maybe quite as hard. And that's great. So Jaden, well done for going in there as well. And like I say, question whether or not you're good enough, but now captains the Grassroots team. And look, there's different levels of Grassroots as well. So you can get back into it at the stage and the level that you kind of want to get into, which is always good for all players, really. So I suppose this is not going to be a massively long episode because it is about rejection and what we can kind of do there and what we can try and do to help. So, I mean, look, what can we control with the rejection? Now, if you looked at last week, we did the podcast was done on the JPL versus Grassroots. So we did an episode on that, really. Obviously, there's a lot of rejection out of those ones too, because like I say, there's a trial after trial after trial. It's kind of built us in the kind of leagues between Grassroots and full academies. So you generally have better players that are going there, or the perception definitely is that there's better players there. Although, like I did say on that podcast, I think level 1, level 2 Grassroots players are pretty much the same players. They're just playing all in different teams. So I wouldn't say there's a massive, massive difference between those. But I would say, look, here's the truth about it. What can you control? What you can't control? Well, in all honesty, you can't really control the selection. You as a player, you can't really control that. I mean, you can turn up with the attitude that's been good. You can be really motivated, listen, be coachable. They're all things that people do want. And pre-season wise, they're all things that your coach will definitely be wanting. But you can't control everything about it. So let's just say that you were playing right back and there is four players that have gone in for right backs. Chances are one of you is not going to be playing in there as well, because squad numbers, we're going to need a number of midfielders, goalkeepers, forward players that are playing different positions. If you're only going to want playing one position as well, you make it maybe a little bit difficult for the coach too. And if you're in the more competitive leagues, especially sort of like level 1, level 2, really pushing towards winning cup games and everything else, and it's billed as a competitive team, which I don't mind Grassroots teams saying that they are, we're competitive, we're going to go to the top league. Don't really like it when they're ultra competitive and they drop to the bottom league on purpose just to win the bottom league by 10, 15 goals a game. But yeah, the teams that are going right at the top, I think if you know as a parent and as a player that it's a competitive and you're going to have to fight for your spot, I think that's absolutely fine. Just bear in mind there are other places that you can also go with it. But you can't control the responses of what the coach is going to say, other than making sure you're turning up and doing all the right things. And sometimes you'll do nothing wrong and you're just not quite the right fit. And again, you can't control that. There's nothing you can do about it. What you can do is you can use the feedback that you get. So you can just listen to it. Just listen to the feedback. Keep training. Obviously, keep training. You might want to book things like one-to-one sessions, work on your weaknesses, using that feedback to find what it is that you need to do so that you can go and progress as a footballer and stay in love with the game and see those things. I think that staying in love with the game is the most important thing. So if you have an opportunity to go and play football somewhere that is maybe more enjoyable and you are going to enjoy that, keep in love with the game. Parents, keep your children in love with the game too. I think that's one of the best things. But obviously, don't forget, you can always try again, okay? This is a seasoned sport that we're playing, okay? It doesn't just run consistently all the way through. This is not like boxing where it just goes all the way through and something's happening all the time. We go from like August to March, April, somewhere around that time. Bit of a break and everything kind of changes. There's always going to be an opportunity for you to go back there too. And just think that, I've got some stats on this because I love stats. 75% of Premier League academy players never made it to their first team as well. But many of them still went on to become pro players, just playing in different places and different teams. How many of the Premier League teams that you see now have players that are out on loan in lower league clubs? Absolutely stat loads. absolutely stat loads. If you were to look at the top clubs, you were to look at, the Liverpools, the Man Cities, you just start looking at Arsenal's and teams like that, you will see that they've got a lot of players. Chelsea as well. Chelsea used to have players all over the place. Like I say, look at some of the teams or players, should I say, sorry, that Man City are releasing to Championship, League One, League Two players to go and get their experience and go and work in those kind of environments instead. They're still professional football players. They are still in the professional game. Have they been rejected by their parent club? They're on the route there, aren't they? I suppose they're on the route there because if they're out on loan in those kind of places, they're probably going to go and have a good season, come back. Those bigger clubs are going to think about selling them as well, which is not rejection, because they are selling them on. So they've got another opportunity to be within the game. So, look, and that's the kind of thing that will happen with kind of grassroots football too. So please, if you have been to a team and they have rejected you, don't feel bad. You've always got the opportunity to try again. So, I suppose, what should coaches be doing when they're giving this information out then? So just bear in mind that some of them are young. You don't know the state that they're in and what they have in there going on outside of football. They may have a horrible, some of the children may have a horrible time at school and football might be their only release. And if you're going to go and break the hearts and by say that they're not going to be coming anymore as well, that can be devastating to them. So what I would say is coaches, be kind when you are doing it. Okay, don't do the regular thing that I see so many coaches do, which is they just WhatsApp the parents because they don't want to have the conversation. Talk to the kids, let them know, give them the feedback, and just be kind with it when you're doing that too. Sometimes, like we say, it's not about the skills of what the kids have got. You may just have, let's say you have 5 goalkeepers turn up. It's very hard to have a team of 5 goalkeepers or 6 goalkeepers. And if none of them are willing to play out and there's no rotation in there, you might decide that 6 goalkeepers out of your 16 players that you might want to have is not right. Okay, especially if you've maybe got 20 players that are turning up and you've got 5 goalkeepers. Again, might be a little bit hard work. By the way, if anyone has got 5 goalkeepers as well, you are so lucky and done so well to get 5 goalkeepers turning up, because they are normally like absolute gold dust too. So yeah, just let them know why they're being rejected too, and make it kind when you are saying it. Look, every kid's going to be different. Every coach is going to be different. Every relationship's going to be different there too. So try and make it nice. Maybe see if there's any help and assistance that you can do and make them feel good about it. Because I've said before, children will always remember how you made them feel, even if they are being rejected or they're being said something is really good. So again, that's the main takeout on there, really. I mean, for parents, what can you do? Obviously take that feedback on board too. And again, also be kind with the players because, even sometimes some parents, they don't really always know everything that's going on at things like school and all the rest of it. And sometimes kids open up in strange ways. I've been coaching before and people have told me about some issues that they've had at school and things like that their parents didn't know about. And obviously there was things for me to be able to report and all the rest of it down there. And we were able to help some of those. So, you don't always know everything that's going on. So again, parents, just be kind. We have to understand that not everyone is going to take it really well, but saying it in the right way and just being able to adjust how your approach is to that player is going to make a massive difference to them. But I promise you, coaches, if you do it in the right way, you will also feel better too. Especially if you're rejecting someone and it's not the outcome that they were kind of expecting. And like we said, there's lots of different reasons for it at the moment. So yeah, that's where we're gonna leave that to. So look, I would say feedback. Make sure that we give feedback correctly. The players, make sure you don't fall out of love with the game. And this is the same for parents. There's lots of different options in grassroots, different teams, different clubs. Everyone will be looking for players this time of season. I'm sure if you go into your local Facebook group and you would support looking for players in and then the name of your area, I'm sure there's going to be a page that's set up where people will be looking for players at every single age group, every single format, every single everything there too. So just go and look for some of those so that your children can keep on playing. We've talked a little bit then about what coaches maybe should do and how they should maybe do that. I think that the best thing to do is just be open and also honest with the team, maybe before you start any trials process, that we're looking for players that do this and do this and do this, and this is the kind of level that we're at. But also parents to also just take note of those things and see, is that really right? Not for you, because it's not about you. Is it right for your child? Is it right for the player that you've got? If it is, go ahead with it. Best of luck in your trials, and I hope that everything works out for you. But if you are rejected at any time, just think, is it being said in the correct way? Have we been kind back to that player? Have we been honest with that player? Have we given some other options? Are we making sure they're not falling out of love with the game? Are we doing all of those things? Because if we are, we've got a great chance of them continuing to play football and enjoying it in some way. And sometimes, it's really, everyone's looking to, every single 10-year-old, every single 11-year-old, every single 15-year-old still, in some ways, and especially the very younger ones that you'll coach, whenever they're playing football, they're always like, I'm going to be a professional footballer. That's what I'm going to do for my life. Obviously, a very few percentage actually get there, but it doesn't mean that that's the end of their football career. And it doesn't mean that's the end of how they are going to be involved with football. Some of these players will become parents, they will become coaches of football teams, and maybe they'll have a great approach back too. And they will be able to remember how you made them feel. So always think of those things then, please. So look, that's going to come to the end of this. Is going to be a real quick one. However, got some information for you for the coming up weeks, or the upcoming weeks, should I say, is that, look, I'm aware now that it is getting very, very close to schools finishing. So I am going to be doing extra podcasts with as many guests as what I can find. So if you want to be a guest, you've just got to email in. It's gofootballpod@gmail.com. Just email in. I will contact you back, and I have some people already lined up. We're just sorting dates out for them, and I'm hopefully going to be putting out over the summer, maybe 2 or 3 podcasts a week. I know it's like I'm going full time with this too. Look, they don't take too long. They're like 20-minute chats for some people, so they're very, very quick. I'll be able to do a couple here and there. I'm going to get some interesting subjects on, I think. But if you want to be involved, or there's a topic that you want me to cover, gofootballpod@gmail.com. Email in. You can go to the social as well. Look, I'm on Facebook. You can get me, Go Football Coaching. You can get me on YouTube, Go Football Pod. You can get us on TikTok, Go Football Pod. You get us on Instagram. Get me on everything, really, as well. X, not so much. I've said that before. Not really a big fan of the old Twitter, but some stuff still goes on there. Please interact. Please send some stuff in to me. A big thanks as well. Let me just go through the last little bits for us then, which is just you can listen on Spotify, Amazon Music, Casterbox. You can go to YouTube, anywhere that you want to go. We're on all of those. So, please interact, please download, please like and share too. The more people that come on, the more topics I'm going to get, the more guests I'll be able to get, which is going to be great for everyone. Okay. So look, until next week, where we might be having more than one coming out, I'm hoping so. If I can get some people involved, then you'll see even more of these. But until then, thanks for listening. This one has been Rejection in Grassroots Football. And if you are rejected and you want an email back, or you want to say something and you've got your story about it, please email in, because I'd love to do some follow-ups. I just don't get enough people emailing in for me to do a full follow-up on the actual podcast. So it'd be great if you could do that. Like I say, just give it a quick like, give it a little share as well, forward it on to someone else. If you're listening to this and you're part of a grassroots team or part of a grassroots club, I can guarantee that there's going to be lots of other coaches that would also have some stories that they would like to come in as well. So absolutely perfect. So I will see you all next week. So very quickly, I know that the podcast is over, but I do want to make sure you get this great offer. What I'd like you to do is look in the links, look in the bio, go and find the link for Lacey's. Now, if you haven't seen any of Lacey's, these are amazing products. And I mean amazing products. These are the ones that will save so much time in shoelaces being tied with the bands that will go around your feet, but there's so many good products there too. So head over to Lacey's. Like I said, all the links are in bio. If you do, when you get there and you get to the checkout, just use the code GoFootballPod and it'll give you 10% off. You'll get the products that you need. It'll save you so much time and effort with those shoelaces always coming undone. And it always seems to be the same kind of boots that are always coming undone. But there's loads of other good products there too. Save 10%. Use GoFootballPod as the code at the end, and you'll get 10% discount. What's better than that?